Hi, did he see?
Sorry about that. George was
Hi.
giving me some weird message about, you know, it's a record. I don't know if it was trying to tell me it was recording or not. I just,
Good
good morning. How are you doing today?
morning. Good. How are you?
Tired, but still going.
Yeah, same. Getting toward the end of the week here. It decided to snow today, so it's also cloudy, which doesn't help with energy levels.
Yes, that is,
That's what
I
happens
miss
this
snow.
winter.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot more time in Tahoe,
Yeah.
but I really miss snow.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm
Yeah.
envious of the fact that you can look outside and see snow.
Well,
Well, let's put some stuff in the recording so at least people know we're doing stuff.
yes. So
I wanted,
last meeting, it was just me. I was flying
yes,
solo,
yes, and I
but
apologize for that.
you and Andres did post some updates. So I made sure to put those updates in the notes,
Mhm.
but we might as well talk about them a little bit in the recording
Yes,
this time.
actually, I was going to do show some of the things that have come out of that,
Awesome. Okay.
so that we could get that in. We're having the of course the portion that I can share is like the thought is now we being my team and a few others who are interoperability advocates internally,
Uh,
have been thinking through, once the CD events links proposal had been, we were waiting for that to be accepted. It was accepted.
awesome.
Um, and then the question, from an interoperability standpoint for um, the events in general is like, okay, now what? Like, what's the link system begin to look like? What are the things that you're trying to accomplish in it?
You're
Um,
talking about the connections between each event. Is that what you
yes,
mean by links?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the challenges that when I first came and looked at CD events and began to think about tool interoperability in general
Yeah.
was if you have a very large company, if you're enterprise size, what happens is some of the build will run in one area and another portion of your system might be built by a completely different team in another area. And so you need to bring together, you know, these the information to kind of show a complete picture. And if we're going to show the complete picture of CD events for a workflow of any given service that's made up of a lot of different applications that may come from different parts or organizations, how do you bring that together and still make it visual? And that's always been a challenge overall to kind of understand that process. So that was what the link service was all about, that you could start from a point of, say, a ticket that they all have in common, some, whatever your parent ticket is, and say, hey, this is the ticket that goes with all of these resources and all of this work, to begin to tie it together. Once that, and there are ticketing events, by the way, and city events for those who don't know. And when that is created, what happens next? Like, is there a service where you can say, okay, I am starting the process of this CI chain of events that I'm expecting to happen? Um, and you immediately get into this contention between the fact that it's the tools have one way of understanding what they're doing and doing what they're meant to do, but your software developer lifecycle might work a different way. And that was the immediate thing that we couldn't really account for well, and I wanted to be sure that the tools stay focused on the tools interoperability and not on the software developer lifecycle. But also, how do you allow for that particular problem? And I do understand that for a lot of folks who might be coming into CD events and beginning the CD events journey, that
Mhm.
this is definitely not a problem that they might face out of the gate. Most folks who are using it right now for being able to say, okay, this was a chain of events. I want to
Yeah.
visualize.
Triggering other
Yeah.
events. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to trigger other events, and they don't really need to solve problems like, okay, but I need to be sure that this event is coming from a system that I trust. Or I need to, say, okay, only some people can see these events and other people can't see those events. And as soon as I got involved in this process, those are all the problems that are always circling around in my mind and how I'm thinking about it. Like I need to be able to show one set of leaders like a complete chain, but then someone on the front line may only get to see a small piece, right? But
Interesting. I never thought about that, that you
yeah,
might want to restrict the visibility of some of those things.
yeah,
So
no, go
can
ahead.
I ask just like just for anyone listening, what are some of the questions you're trying to answer with the event? So if you want to, you said you wanted to show, group of events to management or whatever, what questions are they asking that makes this helpful?
Well, I think it's an interesting that's an interesting question because they've never been able to ask the questions. And so
They don't
you
know what they don't know. Yeah.
yes, they don't know what they don't
Gotcha.
know. But what we envision, especially you know, um, in a structure where you might want to contain some information, or you might want to have something that's, completely that no one knows about, but you're still going to want to collect the events to know
Yeah.
that this thing has history and be built. And so it's more of that kind of thing. Like
Okay.
if there's a
So just
project that's moving, that's hidden, that wants to come into the light at some point, that they can still have history because once you come in the light, you can have history, right? And so
and then
it's more of
collecting
solving
that
that problem.
data,
Hmm?
yeah, collecting that data is probably valuable. You'll be able to see patterns, maybe
Yes.
some efficiency issues could be
Yes.
improved, maybe yeah,
Yeah, your
maybe
metrics can be
redundancies
improved.
removed, things like
Yes,
that.
yes, all of those things. And so all of that is, again, what we think about between the difference between what executives want to see. They want to see the big picture. They want to know, what it looks like across the enterprise. And they want to know, like you just said, is it cost effective? And so to understand if it's cost effective, you kind of have to be able to attach cost to the whole thing, including like the test cycles and understand
Yeah.
not just how much resources you're burning, but how much resources you're burning per application or per service, right? And as things age, like what is the value of maintaining them where they are versus, what does it cost to move them someplace else? And granted that the real cost of like built system are really in most cases a rounding error, but it's still a rounding error you want to get right, right, at a big, big scale. If there were efficiencies to be gained, you still want to gain those efficiencies. If there's things to see and analyze, it'd be great if a system just did that, and you can then learn from that. And so to that, let's see if I can share my screen. We're not quite ready to, of course, publish it because this is like the the conversation that I can share right now, and you can tell I'm super excited about it. Um, where, come on, Zoom. Do. Where is how do I share this? Uh, where's the share button?
There's nothing along the bottom of the window.
Oh, there it is, and it's in
Yeah.
green. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
There it is.
All right, so can you see this part?
Yes, I see like a
Okay.
diagram. Yes.
Yes. And
Cool.
so what we've been thinking about is these core services like the event bus, the link service, and to your point, what is like metrics and analysis, and then finally in a service that supported, and I should take a step back. This is the link service that I was just mentioning. Like, it doesn't just manage like the link service that went with the proposal, but it also needs to access the events themselves, the event bus can and what do we want to accomplish with each step as we do this. And the things that we really were interested in is visualization, which is something you can do with just the link service and the event bus and query the system and be able to do visualization. To that next point that you just made, like if you wanted to do metrics and analytics, you need a service that can then take that pool of data and begin to attach some metrics to it. And then finally, what the for things that do not publish CD events, but you still want it, but they still publish events, we need to be able to convert that into CD events. And I know that the CD events team itself is starting that process of building converters. And so I had reached out to Andrea just to make sure that as we think through building the library to do conversion, that there's something that we can, reuse in other systems, right? Um,
And
and
that might be a challenge too, right? You're talking about tools that don't necessarily implement CD events. You mean
yes,
converting it into a CD event, whatever
yes,
it's outputting? That's the whole interoperability play, right? Because now we get involved in that integration part, which is
yes,
the maintenance hassle.
yes,
Especially if
which
they change
is
anything, right? Like if you have
yes,
all these tools that change anything. So yeah.
yes, yeah. With
But
each
in the
iteration of
immediate, we need something useful, right? So hopefully, I would hope to see those go away and have like a pure implementation on the tool side.
yes, yes. Long term, we would love to have every tool on the planet, produce CD events, but at the same time, until they see the business value of it, having a service that converts that and then even lets them know, hey, like if you were doing this, more people could consume your thing, and some other group wouldn't have to maintain a converter because people want this. But we
Right.
do have to take that step of saying, okay, how do we show them the value of what we're creating and why participation directly would be so useful? And so
Cool.
that's the thought process behind conversions. And then there's always going to be teams that or companies that go, there's no way I'm ever doing this crap. And so and that's fine too, right? Everybody's welcome in their own way. We'll figure it out.
Different priorities. Yeah.
Yes. And so in the last piece, in the piece that is we wanted the converters to whatever we use to do the conversions to also be a plugin system that you can do business logic for things like SDLC or if you have a use case for like attestation of events or something like that. What the questions that it immediately, as we are writing this out and doing little proofs of concept, what we're doing over the next couple of weeks is flushing this out and adding to it more details so that we can share this with the community. But it'll be this if we don't change the basic diagram. And it, of course, looks like every service because all of the services in our space are about very, very closely related, but being able to um, make the SDLC portion of that extendable as well so that people can take advantage of using the events and their SDLC lifecycle. There is a portion of CD events that allows for, user data right now. Um, but yeah, I we haven't brought this to the CD events SIG yet. I wanted to share it with the interoperability SIG first and our progress on what we're doing. And we're going to flesh out these services in detail and have some descriptions on what we are expecting them to do. And then, of course, the next step is to begin to find if any existing tools do these things, um, and go from there.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd hate to have to build everything from scratch, right?
Right.
So create the use cases and build from the other system observations. We're going to have some chats with the open telemetry folks
Oh,
as well
nice.
because
Yeah,
I know
that
that they
makes
have
sense.
collectors. Yeah, exactly. And hopefully we can fill in some of the gaps and figure this out before trying to go down the path of building something. But it would be great to have something like this, and it doesn't have to actually be this, get added to the CDF project list as a thing that actually exists and people can use with CD events at some scale.
Cool.
Mhm. Uh, any other? Do you have questions? More questions? You ask good questions. You're a great speaker, by the way.
Thank you. I'm full of questions always. So yeah.
Uh,
This is exciting. Um, I'm still working just, internally with my own company, trying to get, some more eyes on this. I know that we have other priorities too that we're
yep.
working on, but I'm always, the last update that was provided by CD events to the TOC I was able to share some of that information with our group. So hopefully I can keep the ball rolling on this side, and maybe we'll see some more
Okay.
implementations later on.
Okay. Yeah, I've also been, still trying to extend this partnership with the universities. It
Oh yeah.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, that it's once I started like, picking up the pieces, there is a lot of work to do there as well. Um, the connected OSPO is a definitely going to be a great resource, but I think my challenge is being able to nail everybody down from the okay, we're doing this, we're doing the thing where we're getting connected, we're bringing people together to actually go, okay, I get that, but sit down for a second and let's do a thing to show that it's getting done. And it's great that we're collecting people who want to participate and want to do things, but I'm more of a okay, well, let's do a thing. And
Execute.
so, yeah, let's
Yeah.
execute on something. So that's the next step there, and still trying to like reach out to different companies and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where this is going. But being able to say, okay, this is a tangible goal or this is a tangible vision, not just pie in the sky, was super important to that messaging. So I kind of did pivot and we as a team internally kind of focused to deliver something or have something to deliver around the link service so that it says, okay, we can pick up some momentum or at least have some discussions about how this should work. And hopefully, it'll pull people in.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been
Uh,
nice to see the progress. I know it takes time, especially, coming up with even just the spec. You've got to consider all of these different use cases and different scenarios, and make sure it's not too narrow and not too wide.
yes.
It's an interesting process to have watched.
Yes, yes. And with a little, just being able to come up with a POC that's solid, I'm hoping that motivates some of the users, some of the vendors who do things like IDPs to kind of go, wait, they're doing what? And understand that this is a huge potential, but being able to solve the SDLC workflows and how teams use the different CI CD products to actually do other things. Like they think of the step as something different, where the tool is still doing the things that it does. And the example that I can share of this is like you might have a CI pipeline do a bunch of builds. For applications, because you're building on a service, you store that in, of course, your Artifactory, your JFrog Artifactory, because where else would you put it?
Right.
And and then another pipeline runs in your CI service that deploys this to a test area and then runs a bunch of tests. And they think of that as just the testing step. But the, to the CI system, it's still a pipeline that
Yep.
starts. It still has, some of the events that we're expecting the tool to tell us it has. But from the user's perspective in their software development lifecycle, this is the testing phase, right? And they want to see it as the testing phase on their dashboards, not as, oh, this is a part of the CI pipeline. Um, and that's just one of the types of things that differ from how people, progress through. Maybe you're doing several different types of deployments and, you're promoting to different environments, but as you promote them, again, there's a set of tests or a set of other use cases, or you have to, have rules for like, okay, you can only deploy to this environment if you've gone through these other security steps. Like things like that, we need to be able to represent in a workflow that doesn't necessarily map specifically to how the tools become interoperable. And so that's the challenge of any type of services that's going to consume the links or going to consume the events together, is allowing teams to be able to add the portion of logic that is their SDLC. And so that is what we're hoping the plugin system allows.
Cool.
Hmm. All right.
I like it. Thank
Uh,
you for sharing that progress. That's pretty cool.
uh,
I'm excited for that team. I really am. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to there. Oh, one update. kind of related to like the security part you were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
maybe restricting some of the information that comes in these events. Andrea mentioned that there was some talk about maybe just including a link. That's what I thought at first you were talking about when you were saying links service, but that was something different. But having like a URL within an event that you can access and then have that be protected by, whatever internal system manages
Interesting.
permissions and things like that.
Okay, so carrying the permissions of the events as some sort of URI on the event itself,
Yeah.
or okay,
Well, the URI itself, the backend that's
yeah, that owns the
controlling that
permissions.
would,
Right, right,
yeah. So then that way CD events wouldn't have to care about permissions or store any of that information or anything. Anything else, that you would access would be internal to your tool that you're using,
right, right.
which I would hope is already managed in some way with some access and auth
Yeah,
protection.
yeah, that is yeah, okay, cool. Because I've asked Ben on my team to bring up, attesting the events too, because that's a big issue to be able to say, okay, this comes from a trusted source. We have some
Yes.
ideas on how to do that, using, Spiffy Inspire. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that translates to what the community wants to do. Um, so I mean, we'll figure it out. I am I am constantly very excited about this stuff, but I find that me naturally will go with my engineers and start going, okay, let's start solving problems on boards. And so I need to work on all of the other stuff.
So I do have some more questions about your working with academia.
Mhm.
Have you worked with students before, like doing hackathons or things like that? Or
No, personally, I
okay,
have not. I have not, and not since I was a student.
yeah,
So are there specific challenges that were
there there are some challenges. This might be easier, since it's not like a vendor support really. This is an open source project, CD events. It's supposed to be good for everyone. But some challenges that I faced in the past, I was able to get by working directly with the student groups that are already formed on campus.
right?
The clubs that are already existing, they will have some kind of a sponsor. And they would be better, they would have a budget as well. They would be better able to get access to resources on campus. One piece of advice that was given to me a long time ago is you're doing it right if the student club can give you a parking pass to be on campus. If they can't do that, then you've missed something.
Okay. Um, okay.
But that might be something to look at too, is making sure to include the
Yeah,
various clubs that may
yeah,
already be existing.
yeah, I was going through the route of administration and, trying to do this with in with the research and the actual academic groups to have this a part of research to talk to teams that were doing things that had like graduate programs,
Nice.
to like
Okay.
carry some research and do some actual study in our space. Not so much like a kind of a hackathon-ish or a club this is
Right.
my hope was that as we do this and create these relationships, we're creating lasting relationships with the university administration and not just like the students, because the other thing about the clubs that concerned me is like, okay, but eventually they'll graduate.
Lots of churn.
Yeah, lots of churn and they'll
Yeah.
graduate. And so
Yeah.
um
That's why you would want the sponsor,
yeah, yeah,
whoever
exactly.
sponsoring
No, that's a
get you
great
that way.
point too.
But I wasn't thinking that either, that you're more after like graduate level, not necessarily. Um,
Everyone's welcome. It's the open source, and you said it. The open source,
yeah,
everything, everybody's welcome. I had some conversations like from the Spinnaker perspective with what is there's a hacker, there's a group that does hackathons, and I cannot remember the guy's name or the group off the top of my head. But we had talked about them doing hackathons with um Spinnaker, and they do high school and college
yeah.
hackathons, and that seemed like a great way to spread the word. I yeah, I didn't have the I didn't follow. We couldn't follow through, right? The schedules didn't align. But I would love to find a way to get bodies involved in just doing a thing and solving a set of problems that are, um, yeah, I honestly I can't think of the small problems to hack
Yeah,
for
it's a
around
little
this
more
use case.
difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And then a lot of our products in our group in the CDF are like older, and well, not all of them, but Tecton's well established. Spinnaker is in compute terms, it's a grandfather. It's old, and going into those code bases and then saying, "Hey, hack something," is super challenging if you don't know the code base.
Yep,
And so that's the
takes
the
a lot more
thing.
experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. But I would love to find a way to do that. Is this something that you've done with the CDF, your last hackathon, or was this like before? When did you do it?
I mean, I kind of just got involved with the groups that were already holding hackathons,
Okay,
right? And
okay. And so
offered
what
some
were
stuff.
those groups, just out of curiosity? Or is this specific to the college, or is this
It was
national group?
specific to the college. So,
Okay,
well, there's I don't know, there was like an IEEE group that I worked with. And they had budget and they were already working with hackathon and they were looking for like workshop materials. So I was able to do like a simple workshop with Docker, which was pretty cool. There were several students interested that hadn't really had a chance to dive into that or learn about containers really. So that was a really fun thing to do and was able to do it virtually. They had their own, Discord set up and things like that. And they did the advertising too on campus since they had the budget for that. So there was a lot of visibility.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I saw one of your Docker talks. That's when I'm like, you're a really good speaker. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's so if we are to go out and we talk about like one of the things about the Docker shock is it's very contained in something that's easily related to a single end user, right? Because
right,
if you're a developer, you're building something, you need to put it in a container to test it. I mean, that's the
right.
first step. And so how can we take some of the concepts that we have here, which are about, the pipeline itself and the tools that go with it? How do we condense that into a conversation that is, focused on a single developer or on a new developer?
I
You know,
I imagine even for new people, I imagine the first discussion would be just how the pipelines work, how the development cycle works, and the examples of all the tools that could possibly be involved. So you'd want to set up the problem space first, which means getting a little education on what tools are out there. I remember when I graduated, I don't think I'd ever seen a build server. Like it just wasn't. We didn't go over that, right? That was something you learned later on the job. So I think we would need to start there, educating, at least the younger crowd on, stuff like that.
okay. Yeah,
Overview
no,
of the
that's
tools. And then, like I said, set up the problem where, okay, now you have all these tools. They don't necessarily talk to each other. How do you trigger, the things you want to? I've seen many, many hacks on how to do that. That might even be fun, to build, some kind of in a hackathon space to build
Mhm.
some crazy shell script that does everything for you, does some crazy steps, and then just recognize that as a problem
Okay.
to maintain. And
So the shell script would, okay, this is the project. Sorry, I'm, I write down my notes. Uh,
it's okay.
okay. So the shell script that you're creating, that's to control the pipelines or do the setup or
Yeah,
like,
just one example of how people knit together these tools,
okay.
um,
All right.
manually.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a
That
great idea.
that is part of the problem we're trying to solve here is to not, do that for every time you start at a new
Right.
company.
Yeah,
We're always involved in adjusting the pipelines, adjusting the, how the builds work and
yeah.
doing all this through some huge script that nobody remembers and
Yes,
you know.
exactly. No, I think that's a great idea. When I am sitting down and I'm talking to college administrators, one of the things that I have mentioned, quite bluntly, is that, we'll get young people, they'll come into the company and they have no idea that how you build an enterprise,
Yeah,
package.
exactly.
And this
And
concept alone would solve so much of that problem
yes.
if we can propagate it. And
And
so,
the other problem is if you get a graduate, they start at a new company and they learn how that company does it and they think
right.
this is how it's done.
Yes.
And that's, we know,
Yes.
you know,
Okay.
through
No,
the
that's,
progression of your career, you figure out, oh, there are different ways to do this. Some are
yep.
better, some are
Yep.
worse. And you know, to empower, you know, people in the beginning with a set of, at least describe the problem so they know why it's a problem
Yep.
and go, you know, the advantages of doing something differently, so that when they do get in a situation like that, they have something to offer, something to teach and
Yep.
share and get other
Okay.
people
No, I think
excited
that's
about.
a great, um, yes, that is a great bridge because the challenge of talking about, okay, setting up research. It's like, okay, but what are we researching? What's the scale of researching? What's the question you really want to ask? What are you trying to answer? And like
Yeah.
going through those steps to try to map it out to keep it in this space is challenging. Plus, having a real job, plus
Yeah.
doing the CDF stuff, plus, um,
Yeah.
and so this simplifies a great interaction and starting point.
Yeah.
Um,
Starting with the problem you're trying to solve.
yes.
And we see this pattern everywhere in education, right? The most successful one is teaching, you know, teaching kids how to add and subtract and multiply and divide by hand.
Yes.
And then we give them a calculator. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
this is what I want CD events to be, is the calculator, right? So
All right. I like that. I like that. I like that. That is a great analogy. Okay. Um, okay. Hmm, yeah, if we could do that for everything in life, right?
yes.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
neatly organized in that way. And I
Yes.
think the solutions would be appreciated so much more
Yes. Yes. Understand the problem
if
space.
folks
Yeah.
understood what the problem was.
Hmm. Okay. All right. I am going to share this with the connected OSPO education side of that, as a just for something for them to kind of think through, and it might be a starting space. I don't, I don't want to. Would you? Well, let's see what happens when I share it, like what comes out of it.
Okay.
But I think this is a much better starting point that some of the feedback that I was getting from the programs that they are actually doing within some of the colleges I was talking to, it was like, oh, you're setting up a Python, interactive Python environment for people to learn and understand Python. Oh, that's great. But my problems are more like enterprisey.
Right.
No, and then they get to learn the thing. I'm like, oh yeah, no, yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that part. Okay, oh good, yeah, attract them, get them in there, and that's why I was more focused on like graduate studies and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
No, that
after
makes
you learn the
sense.
stuff, yeah,
It makes sense. There should be a place there as well.
yeah, because
But that's the key, the
yeah,
thing, right? You got to get your hooks in several places and see what sticks.
yes, definitely, definitely. All right, um, wow, yeah, that was what I wanted to share, and then, is
Awesome.
there other stuff?
I don't believe so. We're coming up to KubeCon here really fast. So
Yes.
I
Are
will be seeing Andrea there
okay,
for
okay.
sure.
When is KubeCon?
It is in a week and a half, I think.
See,
Check my
hold it.
calendar. I always have to check the calendar because, you know, dates fly through my head like nothing else. See, yeah. So we'll
Yes.
be beginning 18th, 19th, 20th. I guess it doesn't officially really start until the 20th.
Okay. Where is that?
It's in Paris.
Oh, okay. That's why
Yeah,
I
keep
have no insight to
Connie.
this. Okay. See?
Yeah. So given the time zone and I'm going to be heavy in booth duty, I might not be able to make the next
Okay.
meeting,
That's fine. You
the
probably both
interoperability.
won't be able to make it.
If I can get away, I will. But
Okay.
um, yeah,
Yes. I wonder who's going for my company.
yeah,
Um, I know Paris is probably gonna go, but it's so interesting because we are um yeah, we're speaking more internally about open source, and that's a beautiful thing.
nice.
Our open source journey has been unique, and a little slow and very cautious, but we do have we have a lot of participation in the CNCF, and
Cool.
I have and in the open telemetry side of it, which is how those conversations started about CD events and open telemetry, from my perspective. So I just, yeah, I have to accept the fact that I'm going to be doing traveling. Is not really my forte, but
Yeah.
we'll see how I hate airports. I love planes. I love riding on planes. I just
Yeah, it takes some patience and some gritting of the teeth sometimes, for sure.
uh yeah,
And then yeah, for me, it's the jet lag and time zone changes. Like I really have to make sure that I'm doing the right things a couple days before that kind of travel, and then just accept the fact that I'm going to be wasted for a day when I get back.
right.
It's just going to be, it's tough to get back on track.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. The farthest I usually go is to the East Coast, and that's like, you know, I'll take a trip to Baltimore.
Right.
That's where I'm from, like once a year, and go see my family. That's about it. And I hate airports. Oh my God. All right. So, um, why don't we give ourselves back to 20 minutes,
All right.
and we'll get together
Awesome.
next time, and I'll keep going and keep putting the post in Slack. Oh wait, there is one other thing. Someone who was interested in participating in the interoperability SIG called out that there were links that he was finding that weren't updated, and it's not something we need to solve
Yes.
right now. Um,
Yeah, like in the GitHub repo
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I have found those too. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's definitely something we need to address.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, First of
Uh,
all, we just need a collection of what they are and then
yes. Yes. And so I will
give
try to
ourselves a
collect what they
plan on
are.
how to fix them.
Exactly, exactly. And make the Slack channel a little bit more prevalent. And it's
Yes.
the primary way that we communicate, so
Yeah.
that people who are looking for us are like, oh my God, there doesn't
Yes.
seem to be happening in the meetings. It's like, yeah, that's because we're like meeting in other groups and we're chatting about other stuff. It doesn't mean things aren't happening. But,
Exactly.
if it's how we set it up to be visible. And right now we're small and scrappy again.
Yeah.
So some of that is going to go away.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right.
Cool.
Still excited.
Yeah.
It is good to see you.
You too. And I'm sure we'll cross paths again here soon.
Yep, yep. Okay. So.
All right. Ciao.